Holler if you hear me, and welcome to this edition of Luke's Sketches, because Starfield, well, we've got ourselves another video game that would rather lecture us about social justice drivel than actually be an entertaining game. But what else would you expect from Bethesda? And what else would you expect from people who actually care about video games being video games, not being social engineering tools like As of Heels v Babyface, who, you know, this is really a big situation for me because I am actually blocked on his streams, on the chat, on his live streams. I'm not able to comment. So, you know, if I'm going to bat for this guy, this is something that I actually legitimately have my own real feelings about, my own real opinion about. I'm not Vito or the Drunken Peasants or Hassan Piker or some douche from Review Tech USA.
I'm not going to judge you about which man you want to bed, but you should get their consent first. On the other hand, we've already talked about how games and politics are related. And we've already talked about in the past how trans people and gay people were always there. They've been there the whole time. There was always trans people making your video games. There was always gay people making your video games. Just because you didn't know they were there didn't suddenly mean that they weren't there. That's a fallacy. That's ignorance. Ignorance on your part does not mean non-existence on the part of others.
Who only go about whatever is the most expedient for them and the imaginary audience they have. Oh yes, As of Heels v Babyface, he...
Oh yeah, the Drunken Peasants audience isn't real, and Hassan Piker's audience is... Those are fake numbers, guys. That's like just like the election. It's all fake news.
was in the middle of playing the new Starfield game, and at the very beginning, they talk to you about what gender pronouns you're supposed to use.
No, they don't. It's not like a conversation that the game tries to have with you. It just gives you options. It's tick a box. It's not that big of a deal.
Because isn't it bad enough that you already had to deal with games that people actually liked playing a bit, like Elden Ring, having to go and make sure that you need about a good, a veritable maybe 17 hours of trying to pick, say, if you wanted to have a female character to play, pick those hours just to try and find a body type for a woman that actually looks like a woman, that doesn't look like Rachel Maddow plus steroids.
It sounds like this guy's just really picky about what he thinks women look like, and that Elden Ring and Bloodborne and those games have you mostly covered in a lot of clothing. It's not... Those games aren't exactly very sexualized, and I think that's the thing that he's complaining about. Why did you spend 17 hours to try and make your character into fat material in a game that's not really about fat material? What was this about you dragging politics into games and you don't want politics in your games? Why are you looking at all of your games from a political point of view about how your women should look?
Modern gaming, and now we're getting more of that gender pronoun horseshit being thrown right into the heart of the sea with this...
He and her are both gender-based pronouns. Not all pronouns are gender-based, but some of them are. I, you, me are pronouns. They're just not gender-specific. You identify as a man, and you, I'd use he. You were just using he to describe this other guy, so why is it a frickin' problem? Learn English!
Starfield game, because nothing says Starfield from the title alone. You know it's a science fiction game. Nothing says exploring the stars, prospering towards the future, away from whatever trials or tribulations humanity is going through in the present day. Then
wrong! Star Trek. In fact, a lot of sci-fi settings explore current issues, and it's just another lens to look at things through to help people disassociate from the problem so they can look at it with clearer eyes. There are people cross-dressing in The Next Generation. One of the first episodes of The Next Generation is they go to a planet that has gender roles flipped, where the patriarchy is flipped into a matriarchy. It's one of the first episodes. And Riker's got like that crazy deep V-neck and that big chonk blue codpiece that he's wearing. And it's hilarious. Like, the gender things have been spoken about in Star Trek forever. And it's one of these staples of sci-fi.
Shoving current year Portland pinko gender politics right into the beginning of picking a damn character. And old Az was rightfully angry about this. He gets hot under the collar about...
Because anybody should care. All women should care about impressing this asshole.
This, and he has every right to do so. He is a man with an opinion. It's not as if the description in his channel says, warning, this channel contains opinions.
Well, as long as he's a man, right?
Opinions that are actually his own, not ones that are handed to him by ESG funding or that are prescribed by whatever is the current thing on Twitter. The kind of place where they are excoriating as for this righteous outburst. But when it comes...
Twitter is currently filled with, like, neo-Nazis and hate groups.
Comes to women who disagree with their views, like Anna, that Star Wars girl, they can go and taunt her over her dead sister. Yeah, from saying the same kind of losers like the drunken peasants of Vito who would taunt her over that, although one of them has a dead dad who I bet probably didn't really die. It's just that his father really realized how much of a waste of life son he has, so he decided to stage his death and move to Alaska to get away from him. But
how petty and full of shit do you have to be to bring up people's dead family members because you're mad about pronouns in a video game? Bruh. Chill out. Just slow your roll. I understand that you're very emotional about this and not thinking rationally.
But once again, enough about Billy the Fridge. And these demorally...
Billy has been nothing but a sweetheart to me, and I absolutely love Billy. So maybe I'm just biased.
Duplicitous, completely ideologically dubious scumbags. They live for rules for thee, but not for me. One and only Razorfist commenting on this, and here's a guy who, as great as he can rant, as amazing as he is at eye speed, and as he is at articulating things that shows that the likes of Vito or Hassan Piker or anybody that works for Review Tech USA are the complete abject scum of the earth, and anything.
Being able to rant fluidly is a practiced thing that you can learn to do it. You can practice it and get better at it. Some people are naturally better at it than others, but that doesn't make you inherently right or necessarily more entertaining, as we can see from this guy trying to emulate the style.
Thing they have to say about anything has less meaning than the plot to any given Michael Bay movie, except Michael Bay movies are actually entertaining and make money, and he's able to live the kind of lifestyle that those kind of idiots wish they could have, but then they don't, so they get so pissed off. That's when they wind up screeching things like how they're glad that little that Star Wars girl's sister is dead, or like little dipshit Hassan, who, if I'm remembering correctly, was the one that said that America had 9/11 coming. Yeah.
What? If you want to talk about the politics of 9/11 and how that came about, then we can maybe have that conversation. But that might be a little bit too advanced for your rant style of presenting non-information.
That kind of scumbag, he can have all the platforming he wants, but Razorfist jokingly talks about, oh, come on, bro, it's just a pronoun, bro. It's not like we're forcing this into every corner of entertainment and into the elementary school curriculum to brainwash children, bro. And if you don't say it, we'll deplatform you, bro. Now I was paraphrasing there because remember what I said about the social...
I like how he had to clarify and say that he was paraphrasing.
Engineering, that's what all this gender pole crap is, all the way from when you see it in video games, when you see it on jackasses on Twitter, you see it in now what they're trying to do in the school curriculum to try and indoctrinate little kids. But no, it's the people homeschooling their kids that are absolutely positively the dangerous weirdos that want to brainwash.
Yes! Were you homeschooled? Yes! Not having standardized expectations for homeschooling is a problem, and people and predators take advantage of that. Like, very culty, crazy indoctrination behavior comes from this type of thing. That's not even news. That we know this.
Their kids and abuse them. The homeschoolers, you can go and screech all you want about some tough love parenting YouTuber getting arrested for abusing their kids. Yeah, that one exception that you will then see the mainstream media completely go with as...
There's a few examples of people abusing their children on the internet. Daddy of Five existed as well. No. There's also animal abuse that's on the internet as well, so it's not like it's limited to children. There's some pushing forward and acts that are being implemented by YouTube to try to mitigate that by saying, like, if your child appears in your video, I mean, when we had Dr. Witnesser on, we saw the way he was treating his kids, and that was, like, enough to cause people to at least raise an eyebrow at, especially, like, with some of the stuff he was espousing.
A revisionist counter-narrative against the rise of parents homeschooling their kids because they see these public schools or private schools that are increasingly having drag queens come in and talking about handing out outright pornography to schools and libraries.
Citation needed. I'm sorry, drag queens are handing out pornography at school? At public school? I'm gonna need you to show me where the fuck that's happening. Because if you want to talk about abuse in schools or abuse of people, you're gonna have to take a good hard look at the Catholic Church. You know, churches in America that like to have private schools and like to abuse people, particularly children, and then hide the abusers and move them around to other things.
But somehow, no, it's that one abusive homeschooling parent on YouTube. That means that's what all homeschooling gets you. No. That's one example while we have 17,000 other examples of this.
I don't think he actually understands what he's talking about. One of the reasons why homeschool is a cause of concern for the safety of children is because the children no longer have any outside influences, and they have no way to access any outside adults that can help them if they are in trouble.
This gender pronoun forcing into curriculum of outright porn, gay porn, or otherwise whatever.
17,000 examples of gay porn being put in like standard educational curriculum. Prove it. I don't believe you. Show me the porn. Where is it? Give it. I'm asking for a friend.
Being enforced in the school libraries, of having drag queens show up to talk about their lifestyles, about children being brought to parades where there are naked men.
Oh no, not fucking kids learning about makeup and being who you are and dressing up and lip syncing. Anything but that. Not drama class. Brought to parades where there are naked men. Where? Are we back to you don't understand what nudity is? Okay.
Riding around on bicycles, or men riding around in leather with a gag on and a little collar around.
You mean like riding around in leather like on bicycles, or do you mean on like motorcycles? Because there's lots of men that ride around with collars on motorcycles. Like collars are not even like uncommon. Chokers were a huge fashion thing in the 90s, into the 2000s. Gags aren't allowed at Pride. So we're back to citation needed, sir. Where are you getting this from? Because this sounds like you've never actually been, and you're just repeating rhetoric that you've heard because you don't have an individual thought in your little brain.
On their neck, a little leash, going up to little kids to try to offer them candy. Yes, literal free candy from somebody on their knees in leather and assless chaps. No, all those red flags, not to mention the rally in New York where we literally hear them chanting, "We're coming for your children." Not too long after, we had a song number by a choir singing, "We are coming to convert your children," only for multiple men in the picture to be exposed as actually convicted Movie Bob subscribers, or Vosh subscribers, or Veto subscribers, or defenders of Victor Salva's filmography. And that is something.
Yes, this is a lot of projection. Not all nudity is sexual. Frankly, it sounds like he's secretly speaking his fantasies out loud.
Something we all know to be self-evident. And when it comes back to the world of Starfield and gaming, well, I thought that the world of video games is supposed to be about entertainment, about, escapism. Because the best kinds of video games are the things that you can do there that you couldn't do in real life.
Okay, but not all of them are directed towards you. You're not the only person on the planet. There are other people that want to have escapism, and if you can't get past that pronouns are used by multiple people in multiple ways, and that words are polysemous and sometimes have different meanings, that's a you problem. You can't get over the first screen of character creation, that's a you problem. Because once you can just hit mail and move on and enjoy your fucking game, but you've got to politicize it, you've got to turn it into content. You can't deal with that. You don't like that other people also enjoy escapism and enjoy video games. And you don't want those games to be accessible to other people. Why? It's not even a multiplayer game. You play it alone. Fuck off.
There is an ability to, escape from what you see in those games. You can go from where you are in your everyday life, whether it's humdrum or really upbeat, and you back then, say in the 90s on the PlayStation, you could sit down and you could be part of a paramilitary group that is in a compound fighting off dinosaurs that have come back because of third energy, like the Dino Crisis games. And that's just...
Then play an older game. Like, if that's what you enjoyed playing, then play that. It hasn't gone anywhere. You can still do that. And if you don't have access to it, and they're not selling it anymore, you can yar-har fiddle-dee-dee your way down the internet train and go find an emulator.
One brief example of that. And what do we have? Well, being a Italian plumber that finds himself in a magical mushroom kingdom, hopping around and jumping on shells to gain a bunch of lives.
What's not entertaining about a space game where the radical trans space pirate hunt for magical space artifacts while rocking a sex bulky space helmet? Man, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Sounds fun to me. There in reality. But isn't it funny how with these types, with that Review Tech USA turd whose name is not worth mentioning, with good old Hassan, the same hypocritical douchebag who cried about how his fans would not let him stream Hogwarts Legacy because they pretend that J.K. Rowling is some kind of evil person for being a completely noxious woke type years upon years upon years upon end. But then she draws the line at all this gender bullshit and now is not backing down from it and rightfully goes and tweets reports in the UK alone of men who identify as women just long enough so that they can get into women's prisons and go do some Weinstein casting on all the women that they can get their slimy, grimy little hands on.
Tell me more about how you don't know anything about the prison system. This is misogyny at its root. This is if you think that a man, like somebody with a penis even, showing up at a women's prison in America is just automatically going to be the top dog of that prison is just because they have that penis is absolutely absurd. There was a story which I might look up later and put a link in the description down below for people who are watching this potentially later on YouTube, about a male prisoner who escaped, jumped the fence into the female prison yard, and he got fucked. Literally, for hours. He was sexually assaulted and got the shit kicked out of him. And it was hours before they could go in and get him out. One man versus 300 female prisoners. Yes. And this guy just assumes that dude is just going to be able to overpower 300 women. And the thing is the woman would just beat the shit out of the guy. Assuming that's all they would do, right? You think that, women can be just as much of a problem from, a sexual assault standpoint as men can be. These women raped this man for hours. Just because you are a man doesn't suddenly mean you hold power over every woman in the vicinity. It doesn't fucking work like that. Especially when you go into a place that's already well established of female control. You're not gonna win. I feel like this guy actually thinks that if a woman walked up to him, he would automatically win that fight no matter who that woman is. Whether they're a gang leader, or like a street gang leader, or whether they're an MMA fighter, or whether they're me.
And still, you'll get fat, revolting, four-eyed, green-haired idiots to keep calling her some kind of evil criminal. No, she's not a criminal. You're the kind of criminal piece of crap for aiding and abetting when Antifa or BLM mass murder and destroy property. When they find...
A citation needed? I don't recall either of those things happening at all. What?
an actually peaceful protest of people against drag shows for kids in Texas and proceed to try and actually assault them until they remember that they're in Texas and the police actually show up and do their job of arresting criminal sociopaths who call everybody fascist because, like with everything in the far left, it's weapons-grade projection, and they are the second coming of Mussolini's black shirts to stomp their way across Italy back in the 30s. But we all...
Citation needed!
know what socialism and socialist activists always ends with. Violent, narcissistic obstructions of justice, mass murder. Of course, there's also just general violent sexual assaults as well. And let's not forget all about what they like to do to indoctrinate kids. It doesn't matter if it was that National Socialist Youth back in the 30s and how they would just go and grab kids and do what they want with them, whether the parents liked it or not.
Are you talking about the National Socialist Party of Germany? Are you talking about Nazis? Because the Nazis weren't actually socialists. They called themselves that on purpose. You fucking monkey.
And make them chant the right statements, make them wear the right outfits, whether it's then or if it's the modern California public school system with gender pronouns and pride flags. And if you...
I really don't think be who you want to be and live, laugh, love are indoctrinating statements, nor bad for children to hear. You're loved is not an indoctrination bad thing for kids to learn about.
You are supposed to be in any of those communities and you disagree with that, well then we'll deplatform you, while a man like Hassan, who, if I'm remembering right, actually said that America had 9/11 coming, is perfectly fucking dandy.
That's the second time he said that.
Absolutely positively whatever the hell they want, because remember, rules for thee but not for we.
No, rules for thee but not for me. But if you want to talk about the politics leading up to 9/11 and what had happened and the America's involvement through, like, in the Middle East before 9/11, we can have that conversation. But again, you'd have to take your head out of your ass first and have any basic understanding of politics. And we all know how much you hate politics.
No wonder now we're getting to the point where even people who actually aren't interesting or talented as content creators, like Dr. Disrespect, a guy who is completely apolitical, and now is putting his foot down.
He is not apolitical. He's political by complaining about a checkbox in a game. He's bringing politics into his playthrough. He's absolutely political.
It comes to all what happened with Modern Warfare a few months ago, and also exposing these jackasses at Bethesda Games for being the ESG-controlled assholes they are, by acknowledging there was the idea that I might go and get involved with this game, but then they call saying I was transphobic because he defended a fellow actually interesting, successful streamer who said, yeah, leave kids alone.
That's not what he said. So now it brings into question everything else that you've said everybody else has said, because that's not even what Dr. Disrespect said. Dr. Disrespect said that they told him that he had too many controversies. They didn't want to work with him. Unless you're admitting that his recent controversies were about transphobia, in which case you're saying that Dr. Disrespect was transphobic to the point, at least, it was going to be bad PR for Bethesda.
No, they'll never leave kids alone, because whether they're out-and-out veto types or if they're just completely deranged, extremely...
Nobody is bothering kids. You are the one sexualizing children. You're the one making this about children and their sexual preferences and how they view themselves and their identity. That's you. Nobody else is doing that. Stop being a weirdo. Stop concerning yourself so much about whether or not a kid has a penis. Stop it. Maybe it's not a problem for kids to grow up in a space that says you can be who you want to be and people are gonna, like, love you no matter who you are. Maybe if you got more of that, you'd be less of a cantankerous piece of shit, dude.
This douchebags, they know that they are the types who can never, actually raise a family and actually raise kids, so they'll go and dedicate their lives to indoctrinating kids because...
Oh, you mean like Dr. Disrespect who cheated on his wife and exposed that on stream? Because that's good for kids.
you can procreate, you indoctrinate. And that goes all the way from the public school system to Bethesda games. And that's not my opinion. I know I'm right. I want to thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Check if you're still subscribed if you're returning.
All right, yeah, this dude has balls to call anyone else deranged whilst ranting like your average teen repeating things that they hear whilst not understanding a damn thing. And he's not even repeating it correctly. Right? He's not even getting the thing that he's supposed to be quoting correct. So he's just done a thing. God. Do you want somebody to hold your leash? Luke. Would you like that? Do you want a dommy mommy? It's okay. It's okay to want a dommy mommy. Lots of people want a dommy mommy.